Should you submit forms I-130 and I-485 at the same time?
In this video, we will discuss what the concurrent filing is and whether you qualify to file both forms I-130 and I-485 at the same time.
We will also cover whether you can file it online or on paper, and we will discuss the most common mistakes we've seen over the years, so make sure to stick around till the end so that you can avoid these same mistakes in your own case. If you're new to our channel, my name is Margarita.
And my name is Dixon.
And we're two immigration attorneys.
On this channel, we share new videos weekly with practical tips and tricks on how you can handle your own marriage adjustment of status.
Okay, concurrent filing, so what is it?
In the context of a marriage-based adjustment of status case, concurrent filing refers to the practice of submitting multiple immigration applications simultaneously. In this case, forms I-130 and I-485 as part of the overall process to obtain a green card based on marriage to a U.S. citizen.
And it's important because in this video, we will only talk about spouses of U.S. citizens. If you're a spouse of a green card holder, you need to check the visa bulletin, the very latest one, to see if you qualify for concurrent filing. But spouses of U.S. citizens always qualify for it, which makes it very easy and straightforward.
Basically, concurrent filing means that you're submitting forms I-130 and I-485 together in the same package and at the same time, unless you're filing form I-130 online, which is the scenario we will cover in just a second.
This concurrent filing, and actually the ability to do this, is huge since it allows the USCIS to process both applications at the same time, which does inevitably expedite your overall processing time.
Which means that if you do everything right, you will get your green card faster and sometimes significantly faster.
For instance, we had multiple green card approvals inside our program in 2, 3, 4 months after applying. You can check a video on how to maximize your chances of faster processing here.
The main advantage of concurrent filing is that it allows the foreign-born spouse to apply for adjustment of status while the form I-130 is pending.
Removing all the complicated language, it means that the foreign spouse can receive their work and travel permit plus social security number, which is huge, while waiting for their green card inside the United States.
You need to know that work and travel permits are attached to form I-485, and mailing this form to the USCIS allows you to get all the necessary permits in the meantime.
If you're submitting only form I-130, you will not be able to apply for your work and travel permits.
All right, so how do you know if you qualify for this concurrent filing? Here, it's important to explain what these two forms are.
So, Form I-130 establishes your relationship to a U.S. citizen, while Form I-485 actually establishes your eligibility to receive a green card.
So obviously, you have to be eligible to apply for both forms.
First, you have to have a qualifying relationship to a U.S. citizen, in this case it's marriage, and you need to make sure you have no inadmissibilities to get a green card.
Just to clarify, eligibility typically depends on factors such as the marriage being valid and bona fide, the foreign spouse's legal entry into the U.S., which is important since you can only file Form I-485 if you're inside the U.S., and no inadmissibilities on the foreign spouse's part, such as criminal records, certain health issues, prior immigration issues, fraud, etc.
Let's paraphrase. In super basic terms, if you legally entered the United States, meaning you were inspected or paroled at the port of entry and didn't sneak through the border, if you have a real marriage with a U.S. citizen and no prior immigration or criminal issues, you can and should actually file forms I-130 and I-485 at the same time.
Just keep in mind that you will have a bunch of other forms attached with this package as well, such as all of your permits, affidavit of support, and medical exam, but those two forms are the main ones.
Before we move on to the next point, I will briefly mention that this process is obviously way more than just filing a few forms.
It's sometimes a lot of back and forth with the USCIS because they can be totally incompetent and not even follow their own rules. Seriously, it's a lot of stress since your entire future depends on this. It's definitely a lot of overthinking since so much is on the line, and you aren't an expert since you're doing this for the very first time.
We help the members of our program with all of these aspects all the way through naturalization, so definitely apply to our program if you want to make sure you handle this right and on the first try. All the links in the description.
Another question we often get, and it's something you might be curious about as well, is if you can file all of these forms online or whether it should be completed on paper.
Here's what you need to know. Although it's 2023, there is no way to file your marriage adjustment of status application online, but You can file Form I-130 online, and then the rest of the forms will still be filed on paper.
We prepared a super detailed video on whether you should file Form I-130 online or on paper, and we share our experience there, so definitely check it out if you're unsure on how to proceed.
So, just to clarify, you can either submit Forms I-130 and I-485 by mail in one packet, or you can first file Form I-130 online through the USCIS Online account and then file Form I-485 in addition to all other forms by mail.
Now, let's go over some of the most common mistakes that we've seen people make, and we will answer some of the most common questions that we get as well.
First, the worst thing we've seen is a crazy time waste couples sometimes go through simply because they're unaware of this concurrent filing.
What happens is this. They normally research this topic and see that they have to file Form I-130, and that's all they do.
So they submit Form I-130 and wait, which by the way can take years. All of these years are completely wasted.
For instance, we just had a member who joined our program who filed Form I-130 and it got approved after about 1.5 years of wait.
They got an approval notice, but obviously no green card, and that's when they came to us to file the rest of their application.
Unfortunately, because they didn't know that they could have filed Form I-485 at the same time they filed I-130, and they would have had their green card by now, but instead, they only initiated the green card process now after finally filing Form I-485.
So let's imagine it takes them another year to get their green card. You see how much time is wasted?
And we're not even talking about all of the stress, fear, and anxiety they experienced throughout this time while having no status in the US, no work permit, and etc.
We often get this question, well, I didn't know I could file those two forms together, and now our I-130 has been pending for over a year. Can I file Form I-485 now?
And the answer is yes, and do it as soon as possible.
Again, if you're eligible for concurrent filing, you can file Form I-485 at any point, even if your I-130 has been pending for a while. Just make sure to include the receipt or approval notice for Form I-130 with your I-485 petition.
Another very valid question we get is, okay, I filed my I-130 online. Do I need to include this form and all of the supporting evidence again with my I-485 that I will be mailing to the USCIS? Meaning, do I need to provide all of this information twice?
And the answer is no. Form I-130 is where you're including all of your bona fide or relationship evidence, and usually we're talking about hundreds of pages, so please do not repeat yourself and do not include it again.
A receipt notice for Form I-130 is all you need. And if you're curious what relationship evidence to include with your application, you can watch a very detailed video that we have made on this topic here.
Another important point we would like to bring up here is that concurrent filing might not work for everyone.
When you're already in the US and you file these two forms at the same time, you cannot leave the US without an approved travel permit.
If you do leave the United States, you will abandon your application and you will have to start over in addition to other immigration issues that can arise if, let's say, you overstayed your visa.
So, only file these two forms concurrently if you're willing to wait for your travel permit and or your green card inside the US, which will take at least a few months and sometimes, as you know, a couple of years.
Thank you for watching.
Subscribe, click the bell, drop your questions in the comments, and we look forward to seeing you next time.